Update from Blatten. It's been raining. The weather is not nice right now. Lots of water is coming down from the steep slopes in the valley. And the lake that has formed after the landslide, that has drowned the rest of the houses that have remained not buried by that massive landslide. That lake, the water level has risen again. Yeah, it was expected because of the rain. So what are the consequences of that? Well, the homes are destroyed anyways, but of course, the situation is still unstable and it makes it more difficult for teams to get in there and start the cleanup. So that's not possible at all right now. But also the mountain, Kleiner Nesthorn, is still active. So we still see stuff coming down from the Kleiner Nesthorn. We still see rocks breaking down and they're coming down the slope. Will we now see disaster tourism, the so-called disaster tourism in the Leental, because the valley is open for tourism again? So this is the current situation. Since Friday evening, the road closure in Goppenstein towards the Leental has been lifted. So roads, hiking trails, and tourist businesses as far as Vila are accessible again. Anything higher up after Vila, there we have Blatten. There's the landslide area. But we know yesterday the evacuation orders for Vila have been lifted and for the villages further downstream. So thankfully, so far as today, the valley was really deserted. There was no disaster tourism, but also the weather is bad. It's raining. So maybe that's why nobody's coming. And maybe it takes a while until people know that they are allowed in the valley again. I would suspect that quite a few people will come and try to get like drone footage of the landslide. Local people think that maybe the absence of visitors is likely partly due to the rainy weather, but also many people seem to be aware that the valley needs anything but curious observers to cope with the catastrophe of the century or millennium. That's how they call it. That would be the ideal situation, but in reality, people do not respect that. And there's another side to the story. The valley needs the tourism because that's what most of the people live off, the hotels, the restaurants. So for the other villages, I think they need the tourism. If the tourists stay away, then the villages have a problem. Now is the main season. So there's two sides to the story. So the Leental Regional Command has reported on Saturday that the movement on the Kleiner Nesthorn has continued. During the night from Friday to Saturday, there were debris flows in the rockfall area that they noted and recorded. And due to the rainy night into Saturday, the water level at the Blatten Lake, how they call it right now, what else can you call it? It is the Blatten Lake, unfortunately, has also risen, but not to a level that is alarming so far. We need to see how long this rain is going on. And then there's news about the sheep farmer. His name is Tony H. They don't give the last name, a 64-year-old sheep farmer. And the questions keep arising also over the weekend. Was this a mistake by the authorities? In the Leental Valley, he was allegedly buried by rock masses, even though they were outside the evacuation, the restricted area. And a similar scenario is being investigated in the Bondo landslide. So they miscalculated the size of the evacuation area. It wasn't big enough. So actually the landslide was almost 1,000 feet bigger, longer, 300 meters than they estimated. And that's why the sheep farmer didn't leave. So who's to blame here? They have started an investigation. And well, I hope they won't blame anybody because this was just not a foreseeable event. Has never been experienced in Switzerland before. Also, the authorities said today it's still unclear if and when that mountain there is starting to slide again, creating a new landslide. And in light of that, it is very difficult to make a decision should they rebuild Blatten. I think what is clear right now, the damage is substantial And to rebuild Blatten at the same spot, I think this is nearly impossible. So they have to find another location. So this is a back and forth right now. It's not determined at all, and it might take months or even years, that's what they're saying, until a decision can be made. But they seem to be determined to not let the name of Blatten die. Interesting is that Blatten and that mountain wasn't on the list of like endangered areas. It's all over Switzerland. There's areas that are endangered. To have a catastrophe like that happen, not to that extent. They didn't expect that. They have never seen anything like this. But there's maps like the FEMA flood maps in the US that say within the next 300 years, this village is at risk, that village is at risk. And it's kind of frightening to see how many spots are on the map. It's basically all over Switzerland, but Blatten was not on this map. You have to imagine it took less than 40 seconds for the Birch Glacier at 3:30 p.m. on May 28th to bring to an end to the almost 600 years of existence of the village of Blatten. It was known as much for their geraniums in the windows of its centuries-old large chalets as for its resistance to mass tourism. I mean, in the Swiss Alpine imagination that's already rich with legends, this Leental Valley in the southern canton of Valais always occupied a special place. It was sort of original, like a sanctuary, and now it holds a far darker distinction. It's the first to surrender a village to the forces of nature. And as I mentioned, the tourism, 3 hotels in Blatten were completely destroyed, and this has significant repercussions for the valley because these hotels that were destroyed, they were responsible for over 80% of occupancy in this valley. So that's why this is affecting tourism in the valley significantly. It's a big, big loss for their tourism industry. That's what the officials are saying. Because this affects the restaurants and all the other tourist attractions that are there in the valley. So the valley's open for tourism, but they have lost 80% of their available beds. And already before Blatten was destroyed, there was a shortage in hotel beds. More people wanted to come. So now they say they have lost over 150 beds, and now they are really short on capacity. And especially if they look at the winter season. So the Leental tourism industry, they say they're now looking out for temporary solutions that, like temporary accommodations that meet the standards of hotels. And now you might say, well, don't you have something better to do than worrying about money and tourism? And normally I am against that, endangering tourists. But here, this is different. The disaster has happened. No tourist was harmed. I mean, they're not lurking tourists into hotels, and they know that they could be buried. But these people in this valley need to live off something. So now to say let's abandon the tourism industry because that has happened would be cruel for these people. I think there's really a fine line between that. This is different than when I say, oh, they keep driving these people on top of erupting volcanoes, or the lagoons in Iceland and stuff like this. This is different. So I really think they need this support. They need money. So this was my update about Blatten in Switzerland today. I hope you liked it, guys. If you want to know what happened there, I have a playlist where you can binge watch from the start what happened, with frightening pictures, how the mountain cracks off and then how everything comes down. But also there's more going on. There's Etna and there's Campi Flegrei. That is really concerning right now. So check out my playlist, but also go to my start page, click on videos and click on recent. Then you see everything that's interesting for you. And best is subscribe so that you never miss out anything. I would love to see you again here on my channel. And if you want to support the channel, check the links in the description. You can buy me a coffee on my buymeacoffee.com/silky site. And then if you leave me a message, I can answer with a 30-second video, and you can video back so we can see each other. I think this is a great opportunity for us to get to know each other. And thank you so much for the supers you're giving me here. And shout out to my members. And I have an alert here in Vancouver. I hope I'm going to survive this. I will release this for my silver level members after this video, so stay tuned. It's a real alert that was issued. So strange things are happening. See you soon. Stay safe. Bye-bye.